the Nurses Doing GAMSAT Podcast, brought to you by Thankfully GAMSAT. We're here to teach you how to smash the GAMSAT, get into medicine, and become a flippin' great doctor.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Nurses Doing GAMSAT Podcast. My name is Dr. Tom, founder and CEO of Thankfully GAMSAT. I'm joined today by the amazing Will, who is on holidays now. He's back on knee deep in third year med at ANU. Welcome, Will.
Thanks, Tom. And look, today's episode is going to be one of the best that we've recorded so far with me involved, because it's where we get to talk about something that, the students don't want to hear, the people studying for the GAMSAT don't want to hear, but sometimes they just need to hear something tough. They absolutely need to be here for today's episode.
It's going to be a fun one. It's going to be fun because Hell Week is coming, or it might be happening right now. Depends on when you're listening to it. But before we jump in, as always, if you want the resource, you want some study resources, or if you want the resources that we're talking about in this episode, go to the show notes. We've usually got a bunch of them in there for you. But we're here to help nurses, healthcare professionals, and even science students, and anyone else who's listening who's doing the GAMSAT to kick butt with this exam. And that's what this episode is about. So let's talk about a little bit about Hell Week. Well, because I think Hell Week is for me personally, it's a fun time of the year. And it's happening very soon because most people, when they start their GAMSAT preparation, they waste the first 4 to 6 weeks of their prep, right? Not because they're lazy, but because they're essentially they're guessing. They don't know what's actually going to be useful, right? Well, what was your experience like when you first started preparing for the GAMSAT?
Look, to be honest, there was a period where I was studying before I joined, and I really resonate with that. And that was the reason why I joined in the first place, is, I studied for 2-3 weeks before I joined, and I thought, okay, am I actually doing this all right? What am I actually doing well in? What am I not doing well in? I actually just couldn't really figure it out. And then when I joined, luckily it was in time for the first ever Hell Week. And all of that it fell together, if you will.
Yeah, because oftentimes, as you probably did there, Will, the way to start is you pick up a GAMSAT book or get some practice questions, and then you start reviewing. You start trying to get them done, grinding through it. Because that's kind of the general way you kind of rip into it. And that's good, it's good that you're getting into it, you're getting moving, you're being proactive. That's actually better than not doing anything. However, it's not as effective as it could be. And there's a smarter way to actually get started. And you kind of mentioned it, with Hell Week. You don't have to join our bootcamp to do Hell Week. By the way, you can. We run it for our members, but we also run it for people outside of the bootcamp. But the thing about Hell Week is that after watching GAMSAT students prepare for or start their preparation and try and improve their preparation, because it could also be that you've been studying for a little while. Maybe you've been studying, doing your best. Maybe you're just very new to it. This is the first thing you're doing and you're wondering, how do I get started? Oftentimes, we got to start off with the hard thing. And the hard thing is Hell Week, and it's also the most rewarding thing as well. So what did you find most beneficial about doing Hell Week, Will?
Without, putting too much out there too soon before we really go into what all the deep info about what Hell Week really is and what it involves, is that it in a way puts you in the darkest week of your GAMSAT study to give you the brightest light for the rest of your GAMSAT study. It really reveals a lot about what you really need to be doing in future, where you're actually at. And I feel like it's very tough because it's like, oh, wow, this is really, really hard. There's a lot going on. You're doing high intensity quite early in your study. And then you go from there and it breaks down everything for you, which is what I really liked about it. And still like about it.
Yeah, it's a bit of fun too. So it sounds often it sounds worse than it actually is, and that's why we're kind of putting a bit of emphasis on this to kind of show you that it's not always as bad as it might seem. But the reason why we do Hell Week at this stage before the September GAMSAT is that if you didn't know, registrations for the September GAMSAT close on Tuesday, the 30th of June. So depending on when you're listening to this, that might be coming up or it might have already passed. But so what that means is that you're either not doing September, and in which case, great, good for you. That do let you focus on March. You can still do Hell Week, but you can focus on March next year. Or if you're registered for September GAMSAT, then welcome to hell, so to speak, GAMSAT preparation. But more so, Hell Week. We're kicking it off with a very purposefully designed week of study that will help you get started in an effective way. And let's break it down. Let's kind of reveal what Hell Week is. Will, why don't we go through that and talk about what actually is Hell Week? What does it involve?
So, I guess if we're going to give it another name, we'd call it our Diagnostic Week, where we go through a range of section sort of simulation tests. And it's not a way to, punish you for not have studying the most optimally so far, or if you're just coming in for the first time and you've done no study. It's meant to put stress on you to simulate those GAMSAT conditions with GAMSAT-like features. It's honestly one of the ways to get as close as you can to a mini GAMSAT. And without doing all the prep and all everything, is to find exactly how you're going. Is to find what you're weak at, what you're good at, and then how you can get better at the things that you're not so good at. And it's very good. It's very to the point. And sometimes you need that for your GAMSAT study. Sometimes you just need to deal with the bad news that you're not good at everything. So then you can become good or better at everything.
Yeah, and I think this is where there are a couple of things we need to remember about Hell Week. We kind of have a bit of fun about it because people do avoid this for some reason. But when you go to the doctor, they don't just go, "Oh, I've seen your face. You should take this antibiotic, this Panadol, and this chemotherapy medication," right? They don't just going to give you these prescriptions, but that's kind of how people approach the GAMSAT. They go, "I'm doing the GAMSAT. I'm just going to do all these different random things." Instead, first, we need to diagnose what are your problem areas in each section. And then we can create the best study moving forward. So that you're not randomly reading things or studying things that aren't going to help, but rather you're being really purposeful with what is actually going to make the difference. The problem here, and why it feels like Hell Week, is that oftentimes it can be quite confronting. It can feel a bit uncomfortable to go, "Oh, I got this low score in here, and I really struggle with this topic." And that's where the name Hell Week kind of comes from, is because people don't want to see what their problem areas are. But then the problem is that how do you know what to actually study if you don't know what the problem areas are? And this isn't like what Will said a moment ago. It's not about punishment. It's not about beating yourself up. It's about getting excited, going, "I found where my marks are hiding. I found what's going to improve my score the most." If you've done it before, you probably didn't do this in enough detail to figure out what those problems are. Or if you're doing it for the first time, this is the beginning. And so when you did your Diagnostic Week, what were some of the kind of insights that you had? You studied for a few weeks, realized it wasn't going well. You did Hell Week. What were the insights and the realizations that you had?
Well, I think in terms of realizations, it's really when you do the test, like for the first time in the rawest form, that it's sometimes you got to sit with the fact that you're not good at something. It's because it's very blatant. It's like, okay, you didn't get this question right. Here are your areas to improve. And sometimes it's a bit of a struggle to realize, okay, I'm actually just not good at this thing, and I need to focus on it. And the step after Hell Week is even harder than that, which is actually focusing on the weak areas that you don't like and you know you're not good at now. Because you always want to approach in your study the things that you're really good at.
Yeah.
So in
Things you
my
enjoy.
experience, I was
Yeah.
like struggling to hit those areas that I was bad at, especially around specific parts of physics and chemistry with electricity. I can't stand it. But you got to force yourself to just give it a go and practice those areas too.
Yeah. I think what we've done with our diagnostic week, it's called Diagnostic Week, but we jokingly call it Hell Week. What we've done with Diagnostic Week is that we've created this kind of ecosystem and support network for you. So you're not, if you were to do this on your own and you do just the ACER practice papers, which you're more than welcome to do as a form of diagnostic, when you look at their answers, they just got A, or the answer's B, or the answer's D, and there's no explanation. There's nothing that comes after that. And that's actually what comes after seeing if you got it right or wrong is the important bit, right? So there are a few tips to making the most of your diagnostic or Hell Week experience, whether you do it with us or whether you do it alone with the ACER papers. So firstly is to do it under timed conditions. You know, when people reach out to us and we ask them, have you done any practice questions? They often say, I've flicked through a few, but not under exam timing. And that's fine, but it gives you a skewed understanding of what this test is about. Because if you had all the time in the world, most people can answer these questions. But it's that time pressure that really can pinpoint what the problem areas are. So first one is do it timed. Will, do you want to talk about the second one? So not doing it, I won't give it away.
So the next bit is don't Google and don't research during your diagnostic testing. The best way to get through any test is to do it from what you know. If you're Googling during it, it's a false sense of security that, I could just do this. It's fine. I just looked it up. It's all good. But then you're not actually testing yourself because in the GAMSAT, you've got no help. It's you on your own at that desk. There's no asking for help on the day. So to get the best reflection of how you can get ready for that day is to act like it's the real thing. And by Googling, you're doing yourself an injustice because you're not using your own brain to do it.
That's it. And we want to put a little bit of pressure on that first one, right? Just to see what we need to really focus on next. And the third tip would be to be honest in your reflection. And this is, I believe that the reflection part is the most important. And this is about going through the answers and not just going, it's B, but rather, what did you miss? If you got it wrong, why did you get it wrong? What did they do differently? And write that stuff down. Make note of not just it's physics, because it's far more than just physics. It's probably a graph reading or some kind of reasoning skill or ability that you didn't have, and probably the knowledge as well. The fourth one is to show up to the debrief. So what we're doing is, like I said, we created an ecosystem to kind of, or like a support network to guide you through Hell Week. Is that once you've done the test, we then do a debrief session on that to walk you through what to do next. What do you do about that problem about physics or that problem with that reasoning skill? And I think the final tip there, Will, I think it's something that you're really good at supporting people through.
Yeah, I think this one's, out of all of them, is the hardest. And it's something I've already touched on already. And it's not to let yourself spiral after you get your result. Because it is a tough test. I know, because I helped write it a couple of years ago. I made it tough on purpose. It's meant to really push you to see what you're good and what you're bad at. But I think it's really easy to fall into a bit of a hard place afterwards when you go like, man, I did so badly in this test, but I've been kind of doing well in my practice. I don't know what I'm doing wrong, and putting yourself in a bit of a bad place because of it. When really, this test is the light. It's going to show you that this is what you need to do to get there now. And you know exactly what you need to do, but you need to go through that reflective process with yourself and in the group debrief to get yourself there. And remember that you're not alone through this. The group debrief is there to support you.
Yeah, exactly. And you're not expected to get a great score now. That's literally what the study is for, to take you from where you are to where you want to be. That's why we study. That's what study is for. So it's okay if you don't get a great score at this point. The key is what you do next, right? And this leads us to the next part, which is what comes after Hell Week. Because the aim of Hell Week is to create a roadmap of what is going to help you, the person listening to this, not like whatever general thing someone else is saying online or what you've read elsewhere or seen or heard or whatever. It's what's going to help you specifically, because everyone's a bit different. Everyone's got their different backgrounds, different skills, experiences, different science knowledge or lack thereof, or essays or section 1. And so the debrief helps us to map out, what do you do next? How do you actually study for each section? Is it reasoning? Is it the topics in section 3? Is it the idea generation in section 2? Whatever, going into great detail, and then making sure that you have the resources in order to make that happen, in order to implement that actual plan. So Will, what came for you after Diagnostic Week? Like, what did you do? Because for those of you who are listening to this for the first time, Will got a great score in section 3. I think was it in the 80s?
The first time I sat it, I got it in the 70s, and then the second time I managed to boost it to an 83.
83, yeah, awesome. So then
and that was in between the very first, which was only 3 weeks to 4 weeks of study. And then the second one was really going through the full process all over again, reconstructing everything and giving it a second go. I think the biggest thing is, if you're a boot camper, is the weekly check-in with your PIMs, seeing how you're going, and weekly reflection on all the goals that you set as a result of your weaknesses. And if you're not a boot camper, because I know some of you listening may or may not be boot campers, is doing a weekly check-in with yourself. Am I improving? How are you able to identify your improvements in these weak areas? Are you putting in the hours to get there, or are you just getting comfortable with it? And now you know, it's like, oh, I'm relaxed now. I know I'm bad at this. I'll do it later. You just got to keep yourself accountable, and that's the important thing. Whether you find yourself a little buddy to keep yourself accountable, if you've got a friend that's also sitting the GAMSAT, it's important to keep yourself accountable for everything you do now until the September sitting, or the March sitting if you're sitting March instead.
Yeah, and your study at that point won't be generic anymore, right? It won't be just this random chapter of a textbook. It'll be deliberate and targeted and focused on your study. And that's what you want to be checking in on as well. Am I on the right path? Am I studying in a way that's getting me to where I want to be? Awesome. And so if you guys want to take part in Hell Week, so what we give you the diagnostic test for sections 1 and 3. You can also get the section 2 essay feedback, but the free stuff is sections 1 and 3 and the debrief. And if you go to the show notes, you can join Hell Week. Do that as soon as you can so that you don't miss out, because it does have a limited time window. It goes for just a week. And if you're listening to this afterwards, reach out to us and we can get you a diagnostic, a couple of diagnostic tests and perhaps support you through it nonetheless. But just on a side note, Will, so you mentioned that you were in theatres because you're third year, right? And a lot of people listening to this are dreaming about being in your situation in a few years' time, third year of medical school. And you said you were in operating theatres yesterday. Tell me about that.
Yeah. It was such an interesting experience. I spent 12 hours in the theatres yesterday. Luckily, I'm in a place that does robotics, so I was watching robotics procedures all day with a team. Super nice team, super exhilarating experience being able to see it really happen in action, despite it being a very long day, as we spoke about earlier before this podcast. But it's so rewarding to get in and to get done and get to see all the things that you've been aspiring to all the time that you've been studying. is what I always feel like. I'm like, oh man, I remember being in the GAMSAT. Since I work at ThinkFlip, I'm around a lot of the students, and I'm always thinking like, wow, I remember the me of 2023 when I was studying to try and get in, and now I'm finally in and doing the phase 2 clinical medicine that I've always wanted to try out and see. It's a long journey, but you get there in the end if you stay true to the process.
Yeah, it goes. It feels like it's slow, and there's this big chasm between where you are and where you want to be. But if you follow the process step by step, one day you're going to look up and go, "Wow, I'm in third year medicine. I spent 12 hours in the theaters watching cool surgical procedures." And so, what was the procedure that they were doing?
Well, I was there for the whole day, so it was lots of procedures. But the really exciting one that I thought I enjoyed the most was this double inguinal hernia mesh repair of an existing mesh. And the surgeon was just so excited about this because he's like, this is the most challenging thing I've done in the last 6 months. And he's going on and on. And he's talking about how happy he is to be doing this repair. And it was really just such an uplifting mood watching this on the cameras. I was involved in taking the photos on the screen, as well as helping move the robot arms and stuff as well, and passing tools. It was just so amazing to watch it in real time because you're seeing a camera view that's not even possible in normal laparoscopic procedures with the robot arms that's coming in and doing all this stuff, and you see him in this other side on the other side of the room in his robotics chair, and they're just controlling it with their fingers. I was like, what? This is some futuristic stuff that you would have seen in Blade Runner or something.
Wow, yeah, that's great. And so I like what you said earlier, where he was excited because it was the most challenging thing he'd done in 6 months. That's a really cool attitude to have, because it's not like, oh my God, I'm scared because it's the most challenging thing I've done in 6 months. It was like, I'm excited.
Yeah, he was. I think that's the thing. It's like, I remember I asked him afterwards, do you ever find it, because you're doing a lot of the same procedures again and again in general surgery, do you ever find that you ever get bored? He's like, no, everything is so different because every person is different. Every case is different. It's always a challenge because you want to think that it's going to be easy, and it's never going to be easy. And you always find a way through it because you got to solve it in the moment. And that's what you train your whole life for. Which was, I don't know, very refreshing. Great analogy
for the GAMSAT, right? Isn't that a great reflection of what the GAMSAT is like? Like, you want the questions to be easy. You want them to be predictable. But then everyone's different. And you got to work through it and figure it out. And, you can't get excited by the challenge of it as well. So I think that's a really cool story. And it's a great analogy there for Hell Week. So thanks for sharing that, Will.
That's all right. I'm always happy to share my stories. You know me.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, awesome. And so just to wrap up, so if you're sitting, so head over to the show notes, grab the resources, join Hell Week. It's free to join. You got to upgrade to the essays because it takes our team to actually mark them and review them. We have human beings who review those with their years of experience, but you can do the sections 1 and 3 for free. And let's get your study going in the right direction. Let's get it started right. And thank you, Will, for joining us. And
thank you
for having me next time.
Hey, I have a cool gift for you, just for listening to the Nurses Doing GAMSAT podcast. We do some of our best work in our Facebook group called, you guessed it, Nurses Doing GAMSAT. It's free to join, and every day we're sharing actionable guides, tips and tricks, and really just how to smash the exam and get into medicine. You can join today by searching Nurses Doing GAMSAT on Facebook. Thanks for listening to another episode, and I'll see you next time.